and the unity of Somalia. We have no problem with that. We support the territorial integrity of Somalia, but what is Somalia? That is the point to be answered, you see. We have never been citizens of a country called Somalia. Somalia, the name Somalia comes from the Italian syntax. It used to be called, Somalia Italiana. After the war in 1950, when the country became under the United Nations trusteeship, Italia was dropped, it became simply Somalia. We were Somaliland. They were Italian Somaliland, we were British Somaliland protected. We united in 1960 and we have formed what is registered in the United Nations, in the OAU, in the Arab League, as the Somali Republic. The idea of the Somalia was never really our country. It was one of the first dirty tricks which our brothers in the South have used, have used against us. They have imposed their name, on us. So today, everybody who talks, when I talk about Somaliland, they say, no, you mean Somalia, And I try to explain, that I was never a citizen of a country called Somalia. People are surprised. As far as we are concerned, we have won our independence from the British in 1960. We have a history of our own. We were part of the Ottoman Empire. We have never shared any links with Somalia before 1960. Economically, we were a very, very viable country. In 1960, I was the Prime Minister of Somaliland, when we have united with these people. I took a country to Mogadishu, which was viable, which had a balanced budget, and a reserve of something like 25 million pounds, in 2,500,000 pounds in several funds, invested in England. That was a reserve. Our balance was budget. As far as they were concerned, they were still, the Italians were balancing their budget for them, and giving them a substantial budgetary assistance every year. So we are not, as the world is made to believe, a few regions, which have just, rebelled, against the mother country and are trying to secede from it. No.
At independence, it was thought that uniting the Somali people in the region was the way to go. But today, you've focused very much on the inconsistencies of the idea of the Greater Somalia, using the very same principles or arguments that were used in 1960 about the territorial integrity of Kenya, Ethiopia, and other states that have Somali people. You have suggested that the integrity of Somaliland on the basis of the sanctity of its borders is something that must be upheld. How has the territorial integrity of Somaliland been violated in terms of international law?
Well, our territorial integrity, has not been violated. What is violated is our history, our previous existence, our identity. Everything, has been eliminated, and replaced, by a foreign identity which is called Somalia. So everybody thinks of us as Somalia. You see, they call about the changing this article in the OAU Charter, which sanctifies the colonial borders which Africa has inherited from colonialism. And they say that we are now violating that particular article. But I was there when that article was introduced in Addis Ababa, in the OAU conference. The man who introduced it was the late President Julius Nyerere. The purpose why, the subsequent rationalization of that article is false. But at the time when it was being introduced directly against the attempt of the Somali Republic to expand towards Kenya, Ethiopia, and French Somaliland. The attempt to unify the Somalis. It was to stop that. In fact, at the conclusion of his speech in Addis Ababa, if the records can be found, Julius Nyerere said that if this article is accepted, then the union between former British Somaliland and former Italian Somalia is invalid, and each should go back to their own to their own colonial borders. So that article was introduced into the charter to stop the unification of the Somali nation. Now it is being used to stop the withdrawal of Somaliland from the Union. It's illogical. You can't have your cake and eat it at the same time. So what is being violated today now is not so much our territorial integrity. What is being violated is our existence, our identity, our being a nation, which we have been, for a very long time before we even had, of Somalia.
Nonetheless, there was a union between the two countries. Why is there now a revision of the principle of union today, after you did go ahead and unite in any case?
Well, you see, our union was done very, very hastily. It was not a negotiated thing, because it was supposed to have been only a first step. In several other steps were to be taken. The liberation of the LFD, and then the Ogaden, and the Ethiopian territory, and then the French. So there was no question, of wasting time. That's the impression we use, on negotiating an adequate union. That's why there was no act of union. We have passed an act of union because the British, as you know, were very fastidious people, very efficient, they were legal-minded, so they had to pass an act of union. We acted an act of union which was composed of something like 20 or 21 articles. It has never been passed, by the parliament, in Mogadishu. So all that, because of the hasty thing, that we were looking beyond that union. When then, of course, which we did at the time, there was a great deal of naivety, in the Somali leadership. We were new to this idea. They were a little better than us, because they had a local autonomy, under the United Nations trusteeship territory for almost 5 years or 6 years, before the union. So at least, they had tasted the parliamentary practice, the practice of government, ministers and things like that. We didn't. In fact, that was a problem for the whole of Africa, because there has never been really an objective process of decolonization. A man was in jail, he got out of jail, like Nkrumah, like Carlos Kaunda, like Julius Nyerere, they were all got out of jail, and made prime ministers. And then they were left, to fend for themselves, by the colonists. But there was never really a process of decolonization where, like in India, proper people have been trained and given the opportunity to master the art of governing, and then, handed over the country to them. That has never happened. But anyway, here with us, it was a question of that hasty thing, And then, of course, we were surprised to find that the whole world, we never expected that. That was part of our naivety, We never, thought that anybody would oppose. They thought we thought it was such a marvelous thing, and that everybody, would support it, and applaud it, But suddenly, there was the Emperor of Ethiopia, who was a very, very, very popular man in and a very powerful man in the international community. There was President Cigaal, who was even much more powerful and much more forceful man, And then there was President Jomo Kenyatta. These three men combined together, opposing the unification of the Somali people under one flag, have formed, a formidable front against us, and we suddenly found that the whole international community, including the OAU, was adamantly opposed, to what we thought, was a very, very good thing, that everybody would support, And